Good evening. It is 9:10 on election night, and we have three major races called right here in Kentucky. You're on WHAS 11 Plus with us. We're happy to have you here as we have our analysts here ready to dive into exactly where these numbers came from. Democrat, former Metro Council President David Tandy, now a partner at Denton's Law Firm in Louisville. Also, Iris Wilbur-Glick, GOP election consultant with McCarthy Strategic Solutions. They've been with us all night long. They have been keeping an eye on the close counties. Just here in the last few minutes, about 10 minutes ago, Andy Beshear called the winner. He will serve another 4 years in Frankfort. Iris, let's start with you. At what point did you think that this was going to be the case tonight?
So I was looking at key counties that are heavily registered Republican that Beshear was able to sort of inch towards a victory in 2019 and 4 years ago, and really looking for General Cameron to either break even there or even maybe slightly overperform. And that did not happen in key counties I was tracking. Kenton, Madison, Scott in particular, and then Central Time Zone. Still waiting to see Warren County, which is Bowling Green, getting some early numbers there. But those were places where General Cameron needed to be competitive and, if anything, dominate, and we just didn't see that happen. Western Kentucky has been more encouraging, though, for General Cameron. The tornado impacted counties of Graves, Hopkins, for instance. General Cameron's performing well, but then gave up counties like Henderson, for instance, and that's home to Robbie Mills, General Cameron's running mate and state senator. And so mixed bag, and with a statewide race like this where one vote here and one vote there, it really does add up, and we needed to overperform in those types of counties.
Have you been able to see yet, how did his performance compare to Matt Bevin?
So I'm running those back and forth now, and right now there's some key counties where last go around Beshear had sort of a tighter loss, and the margins are wider this time. And then there's some eastern Kentucky counties, for instance, that went red 4 years ago and are now blue. And so I'm still kind of looking through the comparison there. But central Kentucky in particular needed to be red on the map tonight, and they're blue.
So, David, let's talk a little bit about strategy here, because the strategies of these two candidates was very different. Whereas Cameron really ran on a trying to connect Beshear to Biden campaign, Beshear really focused on the work here in Kentucky and tried to distance himself from national politics. So did that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you run the race that, well, there's a saying we have in the practice of law. If you have the law, you pound on the law. If you have the facts, you pound on the facts. If you have neither, you just pound on the table. And so in this case, Governor Beshear had the facts as it relates to here's how the economy is doing. Here's how I handled natural disaster. Here's how I led you through a global pandemic. And people got a chance to touch, see, and feel the governor. Because the one thing about a governor's race in Kentucky, it is really like running for either mayor of Metro Louisville or the county judge of a particular county. People want to know their governor and have interactions with them. And then over the course of these 4 years, he's had the opportunity to be able to do that. So when you know somebody, it's hard to vilify somebody and to say that, oh, well, they're the boogeyman or they're the boogie woman. And so with Governor Beshear, they didn't have that opportunity to be able to do that. Now, as it relates to some of the other races that were down ticket, because the voters did not know the respective Democratic candidate on a personal level, then party labels come into play, and you had things happening like in the Commissioner of Agriculture race, as an example. The only thing that Commissioner-elect Chanel said was, I'm going to stop the Biden agenda. What was Joe Biden doing with agriculture, in the state?
And it sounds like Cameron is speaking right now, so we want to get you right live to that speech as he's taking the stage. Daniel Cameron.
Well, that didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to. Well, look, it has been such an honor to run as the Republican nominee for governor and to run alongside someone who is the pride of Henderson County and the best dressed man I know. The fact that he runs a dry cleaners might have something to do with that. But Robbie Mills, it's been an honor. Thank you. I promised the governor I'd be brief, so I'll be brief tonight and say thank you all. Thank you so much for your willingness and commit to this campaign and this effort, an effort that was ultimately about our kids and our grandkids. You know, and you know, oftentimes when I'd go into counties and communities, I would bring the best campaigner I know with me, my wife, Mackenzie Cameron. Doesn't she look radiant tonight, I think? Yeah. But it's been an honor to be her husband. We've got a 22-month-old at home, and we've got another one on the way next spring. But whether it was Mackenzie or Vicki Mills or all of you all here, again, this was about future generations. And as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like. And I ask that you pray for Governor Beshear and his team and for all of our Commonwealth. Because at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, what ultimately matters is that we know that Christ is on the throne. Thanks, Mac. But that's what Mackenzie and I will return to. We'll return to trying to be the hands and feet of Christ. I know that you all will as well. We'll try to instill those principles in Theodore and the child that will be named at some point. We're still trying to figure that name out. But that's what it's about here on this earth, about leaving it better than you found it and giving a better future for your kids and your grandkids. So let us continue in that effort. Let us continue in that work. I want to thank my campaign team. I'm not going to name all of them, but I want to give a shout out to Terry Carmack, my big brother. Brandon Moody, who has been with me since the 2019 campaign. And the final member of the Troika, Scott Jennings. Thank you, my friend. And of course, I've got to give a shout out to my mom, who is a prayer warrior. So thank you to all of you. May God bless you, and God bless Kentucky. Thank you so much.
All right, and you just heard from Attorney General Daniel Cameron, his concession speech, thanking the voters, thanking his campaign. One interesting thing he mentioned, Iris, that I want to ask you about is he mentioned, you know, what comes next, and he talked about how him and his wife are going to focus on family. Any idea what comes next for him now?
Oh, I will tell you, despite the results of tonight, sort of the star that is Daniel Cameron, like, will shine again. I am confident that he has other aspirations, but completely understand that right now in this moment, focusing on his growing family. But he is such a compelling leader within the state of the Republican Party, and he's had an opportunity to speak at the national level. And so I am confident that we will see Daniel Cameron in some shape or form of public service soon again.
He didn't make any mention of any challenge of the election, very much accepting it, saying he's talking to Beshear. Did you expect anything different?
No, and I know that the Cameron campaign, they had an aggressive and thoughtful election day operation planned to help oversee some of the early voting tabulations and had eyes and ears on the ground in key counties. And so, that plus the coordination of Secretary of State Adams' office from the State Board of Elections side, which is sort of nonpartisan, apolitical, being able to have those resources and everyone sort of communicating on social media. I didn't see any sort of large discrepancies. I didn't see any sort of questionable activities that were being reported on. And so I think due to the fact that today, for the most part, was uneventful. I know here in Jefferson County, we experienced cheap polling locations that required an additional 30 minutes on the clock. But despite sort of those type of hiccups and maybe some minor ones throughout the state, really didn't cause any sort of alarm statewide, at least, to question tabulations tonight.
David, I want to ask you, one thing that we have heard leading up to this election is this wasn't just big for Kentucky. This was going to have national attention, and a lot of analysts had said this will have national implications. What would be some of those implications? What does this tell us about possibly next year's 2024 race?
Well, I think one, just in terms of for the collective psyche of Democrats across the country, having a Democratic governor win in a southern state, it does some good for the party itself. I think then individually, as it relates to Andy Beshear, it puts him at the top of the list nationally to be considered for if. Let's say if Joe Biden decides he wants to, if he was not going to run for re-election, it puts him at the top of the list as somebody to potentially run for either as president or to be somebody's vice president. Even if with that, if it came down to the second Biden administration, then it makes him a candidate to be a cabinet secretary. So there's a lot of options that are out there for Andy Beshear going forward as well, particularly with a win like this.
And you could see that. And I mean, he has committed that he would serve his 4-year sentence as governor if he were to win, but you could see it beyond that.
Absolutely.
Okay. When you look at the rest of the ballot, which went all Republican, was that expected? Did you see that coming exactly that way?
Absolutely, and we covered a little bit, and I want to highlight some of the talking points, some of the points made by David. At the end of the day, Kentucky is predominantly Republican, registered Republican, and when you have these down ballot races that typically don't get a lot of airtime, right? So the type of cash flow, if you will, required to get your message out, the expectations really aren't there, and so you see a lot of your average voter sort of default to, what they're comfortable with, and is it, how they typically vote in even number years and presidential years? Do they vote party line? Regarding their party affiliation. When we look at particularly like the Central Time Zone, when you look down ticket historically, there are hardly any Democrats left in the Central Time Zone in Kentucky. In fact, in the state legislature of 138 seats, there are 0 Democrats serving in Frankfort in the Central Time Zone. And so when you have sort of those types of demonstrations where time and time again, folks are particularly down ballot, vote Republican, that was expected this go around, even in an off year with these statewide races.
So we're looking at another term as a Democratic governor and a Republican attorney general. What does that look like? Is it going to be more of the same where they're just combating? Do you think that it changes?
I don't get that sense from Attorney General-elect Coleman. Coleman in that regard, because at least with my interactions with him, he comes across as more of what does the law say, and that's the way he prosecuted cases as a U.S. attorney, and I think he's going to take that same approach as a attorney general as well.
And it sounds like Jacqueline Coleman is taking the stage, so we'll go ahead and take her speech live from right there at Paris Town Hall.
Folks, we have gotten a lot done in our first 4 years. record economic investment, the lowest unemployment ever, record budget surpluses. But there is so much more to do, and because of you, we are going to make that happen. As a teacher, I see the problems that we face through the lens of the kids in our classrooms. So we have to work together to make sure that all of our kids have everything that they need, because the future of our booming economy, it's in our classrooms today. I tried to tell them, when you attack public education in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, you will lose. There are so many thanks to give tonight. So many of you played such an important role in this victory. First, I got to thank the people of Kentucky for giving us another chance. Next, I got to thank my family, the people who made sacrifices so I could do this. Everybody on our campaign staff who helped guide us here. If you volunteered, if you knocked on a door, if you gave $1, you are part of this win. And last, but certainly not least, is a governor who chose a teacher as his running mate. Kentucky, it has not been an easy 4 years, but I watched him up close lead with empathy and compassion. I watched as Andy treated every Kentucky family like they were his own. And I watched him prove that it doesn't matter your zip code, your political party, or anything else, that he was gonna fight for you because you are a Kentuckian. It is my pleasure to introduce my friend, your friend, and our governor for 4 more years, Andy Beshear.
Thank you, Kentucky! Tonight, Kentucky made a choice. A choice not to move to the right or to the left, but to move forward for every single family. A choice to reject Team R or Team D, and to state clearly that we are one Team Kentucky. A choice of Jack Harlow over Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And tonight, the people of Kentucky elected me as just the third 2 consecutive term governor in our history. But folks, this wasn't my win. This was our victory. It was a victory that sends a loud, clear message. A message that candidates should run for something and not against someone. That a candidate should show vision and not sow division. And a clear statement that anger politics should end right here and right now. Just look at what we were up against. 5 super PACs. My opponent's super PAC, Mitch McConnell's super PAC, Rand Paul's super PAC, the Club for Growth, the Republican Governors Association, all running ads full of hate and division. And you know what? We beat them all at the same time. This election shows who we are as Kentuckians. We are a proud people who take care of each other. We believe in the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says we are all each other's neighbors, no exceptions. Our neighbors aren't just Democrats. They're not just Republicans. They're not just independents. Every single person is a child of God, and they are all our neighbor. We get through the hard times, and we get through them together. We get to the good times, and we get to them together. And wow, are we getting to them. Kentucky is on a historic win streak. The 2 best years of economic development in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're building the Brent Spence Companion Bridge without tolls. We're 4-laning the entire Mountain Parkway. And we're pushing I-69 forward so fast that Indiana's scrambling to catch up. We're bringing clean drinking water to our counties, and we are running high-speed internet access to every home in Kentucky. We're building the 2 biggest battery plants on planet Earth. And the cleanest, greenest recycled paper mill in this country. We have record high budget surpluses and record low unemployment. We've created almost 50,000 new jobs, $27.8 billion in new private sector investments. So tonight, I stand here excited and optimistic about what we're gonna do these next 4 years together. Over these next 4 years, it's time for a couple things. First, it's time to get our educators the big pay raise they deserve. It's time for universal pre-K for every Kentucky child. We're going to keep attracting new jobs and new industries, building our workforce, building the Kentucky we have always dreamed of. And it's amazing that we're here because we have been through a lot together. Devastating tornadoes in the west, historic flooding in the east. And after each, I made a promise that I would help rebuild every home and every life. And thanks to the people of Kentucky, and thanks to this election, we're going to see that promise through. I pledge tonight to continue to be a governor who serves all our people, regardless of your party and regardless of who you voted for. These next 4 years, we have an opportunity to come further together. This is our chance to build that Commonwealth we have always dreamed of, to stop the fighting, to push away the division, to recognize that we have more that unites us that can ever pull us apart, and that the opportunity right in front of us is more promising than at any time in our lifetimes. I have a lot of thank yous. First, to my parents. To Steve and Jane Beshear, thank you for all your support, your service, and your leadership. I love you. To my wife, Brittany. And to my kids, Will and Lila. You are the reason I do this, but you're the reason I do everything. I love you all so much. Hadley is here tonight. She is a brave young woman who came forward to share her story, to speak for so many that couldn't speak for themselves. And because of her courage, this Commonwealth is going to be a better place, and people are going to reach out for the help they need. Thank you, Hadley. Thanks to my close friends here tonight, and I just want to take a minute to recognize that we've lost some incredible people recently who stood on a similar stage with us just 4 years ago. I know they're smiling down. I know they're so pleased at where we're going. And I know they know that we love them and that we will see them again. I want to say thank you to every volunteer and field organizer that did the hard work of knocking doors. See, it's that type of energy that helped us win. I want to thank the entire campaign staff and my campaign manager, Eric Hires, who ran a perfect race. And I want to say a huge thank you to the official Commonwealth of Kentucky staff. Not just everyone in the governor's office, but every single state employee. The work that they do every day is why we are at this special place in our history. I love serving on Team Kentucky with each and every one of those state employees. And we have an opportunity now, not for 4, but for 8 years that'll set up decades of prosperity. I know that every day I have left as governor is special, that every day we have left working together is a day to improve the lives of our fellow Kentuckians. I love this Commonwealth. And I'm going to work as hard as I can for each and every one of you. So from the Beshear family to every Kentucky family, we love you, good night, and God bless.
Oh, come back to us?
We kill the audio. Live from Paris Town Hall in downtown Louisville, Andy Beshear saying he is excited for another 4 years as your Kentucky governor. Of course, he has won 86% reporting. Daniel Cameron gave his concession speech just a few minutes beforehand. That wraps up our coverage right here on WHAS11.com, WHAS 11 Plus. We thank you for joining us. Remember, your full election wrap-up is coming up tonight on the WHAS 11 night team that starts at 11 o'clock. Our wonderful analysts who have been with us all evening long will be there telling you exactly how this happened tonight and what comes next. We'll see you then.